Buddhism says, accept impermanence. Everything changes. Don't cling. Stoicism says, accept what you can't control. Change what you can. Vedanta says, the world is Maya, illusion. Why fight an illusion? Taoism says, flow with change like water flows around rocks. But what if the thing you need to accept is injustice, oppression, harm? When does acceptance become surrender? When does change become resistance to reality? Before we begin, let's clarify the concepts. Anicca, in Pali, means impermanence. Everything is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same. Buddhism says, accepting this is wisdom. The dichotomy of control is the Stoic principle. Separate what you control from what you don't. Accept the second category completely. Change the first category relentlessly. Wu Wei is the Taoist principle of non-forcing. But it's not passivity. It's knowing when to act and when to let be. Like water. Sometimes it flows around obstacles. Sometimes it wears them down over time. Prakriti, in Sanskrit, is the world of manifestation, the realm of constant change. Vedanta says this changes constantly, but you, Atman, don't. Dharma is your cosmic duty, and sometimes Dharma demands action, not acceptance. This is the dilemma that defines your life, accept or change. All four traditions say both, but they violently disagree about when to do each. And that difference? It can be the difference between freedom and resignation, between wisdom and foolishness, between dignity and destruction. Here is a story from the life of the Buddha. Before he was the Buddha, he was Prince Siddhartha, living in a palace protected from all suffering. His father, the king, had created a perfect world for him. No sickness within the palace walls, no old age visible, no death, only pleasure, beauty, youth. Accept this life I've given you, his father said. Enjoy what you have. Don't look beyond these walls. But one day, Siddhartha left the palace, and he saw four sights that changed everything. First, a man ravaged by disease. Second, a man bent and withered by age. Third, a corpse being carried to cremation. Fourth, a wandering monk, serene despite having nothing. His advisors said, accept that suffering exists in the world, but return to the palace. Enjoy what you have. You cannot change the nature of existence. Siddhartha stood at the gates. He had a choice. Accept the palace life his father offered, or change everything. He chose change. Radical change. He left the palace that very night. Left his wife, his newborn son, his throne, everything. He said, I cannot accept living in illusion while suffering exists. I will change my relationship with reality. I will find liberation. And he did. He became the Buddha. But here's the paradox. After achieving enlightenment, what did he teach? Acceptance. Acceptance of impermanence. Acceptance of dukkha. Acceptance of the nature of things. He changed everything to teach acceptance. That tension runs through this entire episode. We face this dilemma constantly in modern life. You're in a difficult relationship. Your partner has patterns that hurt you. Should you accept them as they are, or should you demand change, leave if they don't change? Therapy says, accept your emotions, but change your behaviors. You're in a toxic workplace. Should you practice stoic acceptance of what you can't control? Or should you change jobs? You witness injustice, racism, inequality, oppression. Should you flow with the Tao and accept reality as it is? Or should you fight to change the system? Your mental health is suffering. Anxiety, depression. Should you accept these feelings as passing states? Or should you change through therapy, medication, lifestyle shifts? The planet is warming. Ecosystems collapsing. Should you accept the inevitable collapse, or should you act to prevent it? Modern culture gives confused messages. Mindfulness says, accept the present moment as it is. Activism says, do not accept injustice. Change the system. Self-help says, you can change everything with positive thinking. Therapy says, accept what you cannot change, change what you can. But nobody tells you which is which. Nobody gives you the criteria. All four traditions say, there's a time to accept and a time to change. But they disagree violently about which moment is which. And getting this wrong can ruin your life. Accepting what you should change leads to stagnation, harm, injustice. Trying to change what you should accept leads to exhaustion, bitterness, futility. So let's see what each tradition actually teaches. Buddhism begins with anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Your body, your relationships, your circumstances, your thoughts, your emotions. Nothing stays the same. Accepting this is fundamental wisdom. When you resist impermanence, when you cling to pleasure, trying to make it last, or resist pain, trying to make it stop, you suffer. The Buddha taught, accept the nature of reality. Everything is impermanent. Everything is unsatisfactory. Everything is not self. But here's what's crucial. The Buddha did not teach passivity. He didn't say, accept your suffering and do nothing. He said, accept that suffering exists, and then walk the path that ends suffering. The Noble Eightfold Path is about change, active, deliberate, sustained change. Right speech, right action, right livelihood. These require changing your behavior. Right effort, Sama Vayama, explicitly teaches. Cultivate wholesome mental states. Abandon unwholesome ones. This is active change. Right mindfulness. Right concentration. These are practices. They require training, discipline, effort. So what does Buddhism say to accept and what to change? Accept the nature of reality. Anicca. Everything changes. You cannot stop that. Trying to freeze pleasant moments or avoid unpleasant ones, that's the root of suffering. Change. Your relationship with reality, your mind, your habits, your reactions. You cannot change the fact that your body will age. Accept that. But you can change your relationship to aging. You can practice equanimity. You can let go of clinging to youth. You cannot change the fact that people will disappoint you. Accept that. But you can change how you respond. With compassion instead of bitterness. With understanding instead of resentment. The Dhammapada teaches, by oneself is evil done, by oneself is one defiled, by oneself is evil left undone, by oneself is one made pure. Purity and impurity depend on oneself. No one can purify another. This is radical responsibility. You cannot change others. You cannot change external circumstances, but you can change yourself. And about effort, the Buddha taught, there are wholesome and unwholesome states. Abandon the unwholesome and cultivate the wholesome. Not passive observation, active cultivation, deliberate change. What Buddhism offers, clarity about what to change, your mind, your habits, your responses, versus what to accept, the impermanent nature of all conditioned things, what to watch out for. Buddhism can become destructive passivity. Everything is impermanent, so why do anything? But that's not what the Buddha taught. He walked thousands of miles teaching, established communities, created a path. That's action. And Buddhism can be used to avoid responsibility. It's their karma, can justify ignoring suffering. But the Buddha taught compassion. Compassion requires action. Try this practice. List 3 things that are bothering you right now. For each one, ask, is this something impermanent that will change on its own? Or is this something where I need to change my relationship to it? If it's the first, accept it. Watch it change. Don't add resistance. If it's the second, practice. Meditate. cultivate new mental habits, walk the path. Now Vedanta enters with a different framework. Vedanta says, the world of constant change, prakriti, is real but ultimately illusory. Maya. It's the play of Brahman, consciousness experiencing itself through infinite forms. You, in your true nature as Atman, are beyond change, eternal, unchanging, already complete. So what is there to change? What is there to accept? Here's the paradox. From the absolute perspective, the perspective of Brahman, nothing needs to change. Everything is already perfect. You are already whole. But from the relative perspective, the perspective of living in Prakriti, you have duties, dharma. And dharma sometimes requires action. The Bhagavad Gita addresses this directly. Arjuna, the warrior, stands on a battlefield. He doesn't want to fight. He wants to accept the situation and withdraw. Krishna, his teacher, says, no, fighting is your dharma, your duty. You must act, but act without attachment to results. This is karma yoga, the yoga of selfless action. Accept that you are Brahman, already complete, nothing lacking. But change your actions in the world according to what dharma requires. So what does Vedanta say to accept, and what to change? Accept that you are Brahman, already whole, already free. You don't need to become enlightened. You need to recognize you already are. Change your actions in the world according to dharma, your duty, your role in the cosmic play. But here's the key. Change without ego, without attachment to results. You act because it's right, not because you need something from the outcome. The Bhagavad Gita teaches, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Act fully, but don't cling to results. That's the synthesis. Action and acceptance woven together. What Vedanta offers, the ability to act fully in the world while remaining rooted in something unchanging. Karma yoga is the perfect synthesis. Action without attachment. What to watch out for. Everything is illusion, can become escapism. I am Brahman, can justify not acting. And nothing needs to change, can mean ignoring real suffering. And dharma can be misinterpreted. The caste system was justified through dharma, so dharma needs to be examined carefully. Try this practice. Think of something you want to change in your life. Ask yourself, am I acting from ego, wanting recognition, validation, proof of worth? Or am I acting from dharma, because this is simply what needs to be done? If it's ego, reconsider. If it's dharma, act without attachment to the outcome. Now Taoism offers a third perspective. Taoism says, Wu Wei, non-forcing. But this is the most misunderstood concept in philosophy. Wu Wei does not mean do nothing. It means don't force against the natural flow. Act when action is aligned with the Tao. Refrain when action would create resistance. Think of water. Water doesn't force, but water accomplishes everything. It flows around rocks, but over time, it wears rocks down to sand. When is water accepting? When is it changing? Both. Always. It accepts the rock's presence, and simultaneously changes the rock through patient persistence. The Taoist asks, what is natural? What is forced? Fighting against a flood. Forced. Building barriers that work with water's nature. Natural. Trying to make someone love you. Forced. Becoming someone worth loving. Natural. Demanding immediate change in a complex system. Forced. Working gradually. Letting change emerge. Natural. The key is timing. The Taoists call it shi, the right moment, the opportune time. A seed planted in winter will not grow. Not because the seed is bad or the farmer is weak, but because it's the wrong time. The same seed planted in spring. Growth happens naturally. Wu Wei means know the seasons, know when to plant, know when to harvest, know when to let fields rest. Applied to your life, know when to push, know when to wait, know when to let go. What does Taoism say to accept? and what to change. Accept the natural flow of things, the Tao, the seasons, the cycles, the fact that forcing against nature creates resistance and exhaustion. Change your relationship to the flow, your timing, your approach. Sometimes the answer is to stop pushing and allow. Sometimes it's to act decisively in the right moment. The Tao Te Ching says, "Do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it." But it also says, act without doing, work without effort. Difficult problems are best solved when they are easy. Great acts are made up of small deeds. Both are true. Don't force the universe, but act skillfully within it. What Taoism offers: wisdom about timing. Understanding when pushing makes things worse. Understanding when non-action is the most powerful action. What to watch out for: Wu Wei can become laziness. And I'm flowing can mean I'm avoiding responsibility. And Taoism lacks moral direction. The Tao doesn't care about justice, compassion, human welfare. Try this practice. Identify something you've been forcing, something you've been pushing hard against with no progress. Ask, am I pushing against the natural current, or is this simply the right time to act? If you're forcing against nature, let go for a week. See what happens. If it's the right time but you're approaching it wrong, change your approach. Act with lightness instead of strain. Finally, Stoicism offers the clearest framework of all four: the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, others are not. Things up to us: our opinions, our motivations, our desires, our aversions, our judgments, our character, our effort. Things not up to us: our body, our property, our reputation, other people, external events, fortune, outcomes. The Stoic rule is simple: accept everything in the second category, change everything in the first. Epictetus taught, some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command. This is not a gray area. Each thing is either 100% in your control or 100% outside it. You control your effort. You don't control the result. You control your character. You don't control other people's reactions. You control your intentions. You don't control outcomes. When you try to control what you can't, suffering, frustration, anxiety, exhaustion. When you focus only on what you can control, freedom, power, peace. But here's what's crucial. The Stoic doesn't accept injustice. Justice is one of the four cardinal virtues. You don't control whether society is just, but you control your actions toward justice. So the Stoic fights, speaks, votes, acts, but accepts that the outcome isn't guaranteed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you are reluctant to change, keep in mind that you were born to change. Change what you control. Accept what you don't." Simple, clear, powerful. What Stoicism offers: the clearest framework. You always know what to do. Is it in your control? Then change it. Not in your control? Then accept it. No confusion. What to watch out for: the dichotomy can be misapplied. Some things are partially influenceable, and accepting what you can't control can become accepting injustice if you confuse effort with outcome. But true Stoicism says, the outcome isn't guaranteed, but effort is required. You control effort. That's enough. Try this practice. Choose one major problem in your life right now. Divide it into two columns: I control and I don't control. For everything in I don't control, practice acceptance. Let it go. You're wasting energy. For everything in I control, make a plan. Act. You have power there. Now let's test all four with real scenarios. First scenario. You're in a relationship where there's constant disrespect. Promises made, promises broken, destructive patterns that repeat. Your partner says they'll change, but nothing changes. You're suffering. What does each tradition say? The Buddhist response. First, clarity. A destructive relationship is not a nikka that you passively accept. This is avoidable suffering. Accept. This person has their own karmas, their own conditioning, their own patterns. You cannot change them. That's beyond your power. Change your situation. Set clear boundaries. If boundaries are violated, leave. Protect yourself. Compassion does not mean accepting harm to yourself. The Buddha taught metta, loving kindness, and wisdom. Wisdom knows when to create distance. You can wish this person well, from afar. Buddhism is not passivity in the face of destructive patterns. It's clear seeing, clear action, and letting go of what you cannot control. The Vedanta response. You are not defined by this relationship. You are Atman, eternal consciousness. But that doesn't mean accepting destructive behavior on the relative plane. Your dharma includes self-preservation. Protecting your well-being is part of karma yoga. You have a duty to maintain your peace, your dignity. Act, set boundaries. If needed, leave. Do what dharma requires, but do it without hatred, without identifying with the drama. You act as an instrument of what's right, not as a wounded ego seeking revenge. You can act decisively, while remaining rooted in your true nature, action and peace together. The Taoist response. A destructive relationship is not natural flow, it's blockage, like a river meeting a dam. The water tries to flow around. If it can't, it finds a new path. Wu Wei is not staying still while being harmed. It's recognizing when a path is blocked and naturally seeking a new path. Forcing a broken relationship to work. That's against the Tao. Leaving when necessary. That's with the Tao. The Tao brought you to this person. The Tao will carry you away when the time is right. Trust the natural movement away from what no longer serves. The Stoic response. The dichotomy is clear. You do not control this person's behavior. You do control your choices. Accept. This person acts this way. You cannot change them. Trying to control their behavior is futile and will only exhaust you. Change your situation. Set boundaries. If boundaries don't work, leave. That's within your power. It's Sophia, wisdom, to recognize a destructive pattern and act accordingly. Marcus Aurelius taught, if something is outside your control, why worry about it? Their behavior is outside your control. Your response is within your control. Act. Virtue requires protecting yourself. Courage. Wisdom. Self-respect. These are all in your control. All four traditions agree. Protect yourself. Create distance if needed, but for different reasons. Buddhism. Compassion for yourself. You deserve freedom from unnecessary suffering. Vedanta. Dharma of self-preservation. Maintaining what's sacred. Taoism. Natural flow away from blockage toward healthier paths. Stoicism. Control over your own choices. Virtue over circumstances. Second scenario. You witness or experience systemic injustice. Racial discrimination, for example. Do you accept or fight? The Buddhist response. Do not accept injustice. The Buddha himself challenged the caste system. He taught that liberation is for everyone, not just the privileged. Accept. Anger and hatred will destroy you. That's the second arrow. Injustice exists. That's the first arrow. Change. Work for justice, but with metta, not with hatred. Fight compassionately. Engaged Buddhism, as taught by Thich Nhat Hanh, shows this is possible. You can be an activist while maintaining equanimity. You fight, but you don't drown in rage. You act, but you don't lose your peace. The Vedanta response. All beings are Brahman. Discrimination is maximum ignorance, avidya, forgetting the fundamental unity of all. Your dharma may be to fight for justice. Krishna taught Arjuna, fight when dharma demands it. Act, work actively against injustice, but without personal hatred. You're correcting cosmic imbalance, not seeking ego-driven revenge. Karma yoga applied. Fight for justice without attachment to when change happens. It may take generations. You do your part. That's enough. The Taoist response. The Tao doesn't judge human concepts of good and evil. It flows naturally. But if discrimination creates imbalance, naturally a movement arises to rebalance. You can be that movement. Wu Wei doesn't mean inaction. It means aligned action. If fighting for justice is natural to you, your nature, your moment, then Wu Wei is fighting. But don't force change that isn't ready. And don't avoid change that is ready. Know the difference. The Stoic response. Justice is one of the 4 cardinal virtues. The Stoic must act against injustice. You control your vote, your voice, your actions, your example, your moral courage. You don't control whether society changes, when it changes, whether your efforts succeed, accept. Outcomes aren't guaranteed. Change. Act virtuously despite that. Marcus Aurelius taught, do what must be done, leave the result to destiny. The Stoic fights for justice knowing they might lose. Fights because it's right, not because success is guaranteed. All 4 say, fight, but with different emphases. Buddhism. Fight with compassion, without hatred burning you. Vedanta. Fight as dharma, without ego claiming credit. Taoism. Fight when it's natural and timely. Stoicism. Fight because it's virtue, regardless of outcome. So where does this leave us? All 4 traditions agree. There's a time to accept, a time to change, but they disagree about the criteria. Buddhism. Accept anicca, impermanence. Change your mind and habits through the path. Vedanta. Accept that you're Brahman, already complete. Change your actions according to Dharma. Taoism. Accept what the Tao brings naturally. Change your response in harmony with the flow. Stoicism. Most clear. Accept 100% what you don't control. Change 100% what you do control. In practice, Stoicism offers the most usable criterion, but all 4 have wisdom. Use the Stoic dichotomy as your foundation. Do I control this or not? Add Buddhist wisdom. Don't add the second arrow. Add Vedantic insight. Act without ego. Add Taoist timing. Know when to act, when to wait, but be careful. Synthesis can dilute. Each tradition has its own integrity. Respect the distinctions before blending. Think of the one thing in your life causing you the most suffering right now. Have you been trying to change what you cannot control? Exhausting yourself pushing against a wall that won't move? Or have you been accepting what you should be changing, resigning yourself to something you actually have the power to shift? That answer reveals where you need to focus. You've learned when to accept and when to change. But there's something you can neither fully accept nor ever change. Time. It passes. Things end. Nothing lasts. Your body ages. People die. Moments vanish the instant they appear. How do 4 traditions face the river that carries everything away? Next time video, we're going to walk through the time and impermanence, one of the most important aspects of Eastern traditions. See you there.